Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to both sides of the conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Sunday, so you know what that means. Every Sunday, we have a Sunday conversation as we continue to tackle the conversations that impact the Black and Brown communities. We're going to talk about the taboo conversation, the stigma conversations, and sometimes those conversations that people just don't want to talk about in our community, because we know in our community, there's a lot of silence when it comes to issues, when it comes to concerns, when it comes to different things. We don't like to talk. So here at both sides of the conversation, we provide that space for our community. When we talk about changing the narrative, we're changing the narrative from our voices. You're going to hear the people that's from our community, that's a part of these panelists and talking from a community's perspective. So we always excited to have those. So as you know, we're going to have another great conversation today. And again, every Sunday for the winter months, we're going to be coming on at 4 p.m. I know some people are getting confused. They've been messaging me, John, y'all usually start at 2 o'clock for the winter season. We're trying something new. We're starting a little bit later now. So this is why we're getting the 4 o'clock start, trying to make sure everybody get home from church and get safe and relax and check out both sides of the conversation, see what's going on. So with that being said, just want to say, hey, we excited that you're here. I know everybody's looking like, where's your co-host at? Man, Tony, Pretty Tony is not here today. She won't be co-hosting with us today as she has been going through some personal medical things, and she talked about it last Tuesday. So just please continue to pray for her speedy recovery, and we'll be seeing her soon when she get back. I did talk to her today. She is doing great. Her spirits is up. So again, we just excited to just know that she's doing well, and she will be back, community. I know everybody's like, where Pretty Tony at? She will be back, and she'll be coming back stronger than ever. So we just excited to know that everything went well, and we're looking forward to having her back on. With that being said, shout out to our both sides of the conversation team, all of our community sponsors and folks that continue to push what we're doing forward to make sure that our community is being impacted. So definitely want to shout out our Dreamkeeper Initiative, Collective Impact, Mo Magic, B Magic, YZD, the folks that just behind what we do, making sure that we have the things that we need to move forward, to continue to grow and have the impact that we're having in the community. So just excited about that. And then want to give a huge shout out to our community. There was some phenomenal community events going on today and throughout the weekend. Want to shout out my guy, Rodney Jackson. I know y'all seen the show on Tuesday. Rodney came on, talked about the Roots Festival that's going on this weekend. I think they got a couple more shows today. Phenomenal stuff. They are making impact. Great show. Seen a number of community folks that are part of the arts community there. And it was just great to see our community out thriving, having good times. Also want to give a huge shout out to Brother Mario. Brother Tank put on a nice fashion show in the community. And also there's some community hubs that are opening up to help young entrepreneurs and people in the community get started. So I'm excited. We're going to be bringing the CEO and the founders of those organizations on our Hidden Gem segment so they can talk to community more about what they're trying to do and how community could connect with them and get resources. And it's just happening across the city. And also want to give a shout out to the APRI folks. They have in Phoenix Sunday Streets today. It's going on right now. They are out there. A number of folks, community partners are out there having a great time enjoying the Sunday streets in the Bayview. So it's just great, again, to see community continuing to move forward and continue to bring our communities together. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of resources, but it's just good to see so many folks coming together and getting outside and enjoying our community. With that being said, I'm going to get into some of the news announcements, our events, and then we're going to get started for today's powerful conversation because this conversation is needed. We have to continue to uplift this conversation, and we are looking forward to it today. But with that being said, 91-year-old activist Jean McGuire was stabbed multiple times in a apparent unprovoked attack in her Franklin Park on Tuesday night. The attack took place while she was out walking her dog in Boston. She suffered non-threatening injuries, and she is expecting a full recovery. But again, my prayers to her and the family. It is terrible when our seniors are being attacked in our community. As community folks, community leaders, we have to do a better job working with our young folks, people in our community. I know we deal with a lot of mental health issues, but we cannot have people preying on the elders in our community, okay? 91 years old, 81 years old. Our elders need to feel safe to come into the community without feeling like they're going to be preyed upon or harmed or robbed or attacked. So again, more work needs to be done here at both sides of the conversation. We're doing our part. We're going to be doing a solidarity campaign with our elder community, some of our senior folks, and some of our Asian elder community folks as well, as we continue to have these conversations. But again, community, we cannot have our elders in the community feeling like they're unsafe and being preyed on by young folks and people in our community. We got work to do, and we're going to continue to keep pushing that work forward. Also, the suspected serial killer that was in Stockton has been arrested. They said the arrest is the connection of his number of killings that took place through Stockton and Oakland. They announced that he would face about 6 murder charges. The guy's name was Wesley Brownlee, 43 years old. And they believe they have the right person, and they're connecting him to a number of these killings. So just, this information out there, community folks feeling a little safer tonight. Because I know down in the Stockton area, a lot of people were up and roar and afraid and not knowing what's going on. So hopefully the person who was caught, they have is the person that's out there doing it, but community still be safe out there as we're getting close to these Halloween days, and we're getting close to time going back an hour, and it's getting darker earlier. Just be careful out there. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of people are stressed, dealing with a lot of mental health and emotional stuff, and just be safe out there as we approach the holiday season. Also, the student debt beta applications is now live. They got a testing period that's going on a number of systems. If you feel like you one of the folks who qualify for some of that aid, please go to the website, studentaid.gov, and see if some of your student debt is going to be a part of that removal. But they are doing a live test period right now, so folks should be able to log in to studentaid.gov and see if you qualify for some of those student loans that they're talking about removing off of your credit or off your debt. With that being said, we're going to jump into some of the community announcements for things that are going on in community, and we're going to go ahead and start pushing through those as well. The 100% College Prep 2023 HBCU College Tour informational meeting is this October the 17th and Thursday, November the 17th. They're having 2 sessions, 6 p.m. at 1201 Mendale. If you have high school students that are graduating and you would like to have them to be a part of this, please reach out to 100% College Prep so that you can find out how to get in and be a part of that. That's something great for young folks to get out to the South, check out some of these HBUs as they're making their college choices. And it's just great to see that they're still doing this event. Shout out to Diane Gray and all of the amazing folks that work over at 100% College Prep. With that being said, the Mega Back SF Retreat Gathering is taking place Tuesday, October the 18th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the African American Art Culture Complex, 762 Fulton Street. Should be a great time, great event. for that as well. Just nice to see our community folks again still doing things. And this is going to be one of the first events since the reopening of the African American Arts and Culture Complex. I know that we open up to community soon. So get out there and check out some of the renovations and some of the things that's taking place. It should be nice. And we'll make sure that our team gets some of that footage of what's going on for that event as well. The Bayview Family and Friends Day is happening October 21st, 11 a.m. at the Bayview YMCA, 1601 Lane Street. For more information, please reach out to Reverend Birch. And the phone number is up there on the screen. Again, more community folks doing work, trying to make sure things are happening in our community. Also, the All Good in the Hood Pumpkin Patch is happening Friday, October 21st, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 1605 Gerald Avenue in San Francisco. Shout out to all the folks who put that together to make that happen and make sure folks in the community gets an opportunity to get a pumpkin, and shout out to Feline Finesse Dance Group because I know they're a big part of that event as well. Also, the Mount Rose City of Refuge first annual breast cancer 5K walk and run is Saturday, October 22nd, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Riley Chambers Community Park, 808 Mangallo Avenue in Crosby, Texas. For all our folks in Texas that's watching, please go out there and be a part of that run and make sure that you support the folks who support the breast cancer movement and the work that they are doing as well. With that being said, we're going to move on to the grand opening of the block party. Come and see what's happening in the Bayview, October 22nd. It's going to be 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 1550 Evans Avenue. You'll see all the folks out there. Come out, see what's going on, and check out and see what's going on with the community. There's a number of things happening in D10, so please get out there and check out what's going on in those corridors. Also, the Ocean Ave Halloween block party at Ethic Toy Drive is Saturday, October 22nd, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Faxon Ave and Ocean. The Ethic Toy Drive from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Ave Bars, 1607 Ocean Avenue. For more information, contact my brother Maurice Rivers as he is continuing to do his part to make sure that we have events and things going on. So shout out to Maurice Rivers. Shout out to the whole OMI, Invest Black, all the amazing folks in the OMI that continues to put on for the city and make sure that we have resources coming to community. Also, the Halloween event is happening October 27th, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., 701 Alabama Street in San Francisco. Check that out. It's going to be a great event. Also, the Wizardly Nights, Friday, October 28th, 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at 762 Fulton Ave. Please check it out. It's going to be a lot of candy, a lot of fun, haunted houses. We're going to be out there with our 360 booth, hanging out with the kids. Come check us out. We'll be out there supporting the youth, and it should be a great time for community. So please come and check out what's going on. Also, a one-day youth baseball camp event is happening for ages 9 through 14, Saturday, October 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Juniper Sierra Playground, 300 Stonecrest Drive in South San Francisco. For more information, contact Antoinette. The Parenting and Property Justice Rally is happening Saturday, October 29th, 2 p.m. at the California State Capitol, 1315 10th Street. Please get out there and be a part of that event as we are continuing to fight for the rights of folks who are going through family courts and things of that nature. The high school test prep class is open all 7th and 8th graders. You will be prepared to take the placement test for the HSPT exam. Classes are starting in October. I think they already started, but they're going through November. Reach out to Nate Ford and make sure that you connect with him so he can get you the information. His email is up there on the screen. Very, very important for our young people to stay connected educationally. And shout out to the Reverends for making sure they get the right folks there to make sure our young folks have opportunity when they go to test high and get placed in those amazing, amazing schools. Also, the MPX vaccine is available every Thursday, 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at 701 Alabama Street in San Francisco. For folks who are trying to get the MPX vaccination, please go up there. They're going to be giving it out free at 701 Alabama Street. Also, the Peace Park presents Friday Night Fun every Friday night, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Hamilton Rec Center, 1600 Gary Boulevard. Please, community, get our young people out there where they can go out and have a good time. That's what they put in the Peace Parks is putting this together. So young people have an opportunity to network, socialize with each other, have some good time, listen to music, get haircuts, and things of that nature. So please, if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's fun, and young folks are having an amazing time in there as well. Also, the Saturday Family and Fun Days are still going on. Family trips, sporting events, and much more every second and fourth Saturday. For more information, email sfrebels at 1990 Gmail. My guy Nate Ford is doing some amazing work with our youth, and I just want to give him a huge shout out as well. Also, the 33rd annual Pee Wee Basketball League registration is currently open. They are also looking for coaches. And they started the first week of October, but for more information, reach out to the SF Rebels. Also, the San Francisco Smart Money Coaching free confidential financial guidance class is going on. If you are living and working and receiving services in San Francisco, please, you can schedule an appointment, call the 800 number that you see or the 877 number that you see up on the screen, as they will be doing free financial literacy workshops, working with the community, making sure that you have the information that you need to build financial wealth and to make sure that you have all of the things that you need financially to move in our communities. Also, celebrating Black culture, you can apply up to $7,500 in funding for Black culture preservation events, Tenderloin, Lakeview, Sunnydale, Visitation Valley, and OMI. For more information, check out these email addresses on there. Look up the intoaction.org /mini grants or email mini grants to into action. Should be great if you're trying to do an event. You know, we got a lot of holidays coming up. We got Black History Month. If you want to do something, reach out to them. That could be a $7,500 opportunity for you to do the event that you would like to do. So reach out to them today. Also, our both sides of the conversation capacity building fundraiser is still going on. If you like to donate, help us, support us, go to that GoFundMe and make sure you make your donation to help to support our organization and the work that we continue to do in our community. Also, with our both sides of the conversation announcements, we are still looking for volunteers. We need help. We need support. If that is you and you want to use your skill and you have some talents that you want to give back and help our communities out, whether it's administrative, HR, whatever it is, we're looking for folks to come help support so that we can continue to do the work that we're doing to impact our community. So if that is you and you feel like, hey, you want to give some of your time back and help and give back, because, you know, it's too many people in the community always talking about, I don't know how to connect with people, John. I don't know how to find volunteer opportunities. So again, I put it out there. If that's you, you want to get involved, you want to connect with community, reach out to us and we'll help get you connected with some of the work that we're doing in community, connect you with other community folks, because we need our people to get in action and start moving and doing their part to help support what's going on with our community needs. Also, if you would like to support us other way, maybe you like, I don't have the time, I'm busy. You would like to be a person that want to make a financial donation, you can go to Amazon Smile, sign up, click on choose the charitable organization, choose both sides of the conversation. Every time you shop on Amazon, no extra cost to you, but every time you shop, Amazon will give us 0.5% of those sales to help our organization out. And I think that's a cool thing, because I know all you ladies, okay, don't tell me y'all not shopping on Amazon, because I see those Amazon trucks everywhere, okay? They dropping off packages 24 hours a day. So again, you could be doing a great thing by giving back, no extra charge to you, but you can help us by choosing us on Amazon Smile and choose both sides of the conversation as your charitable organization. And for all you new folks that are watching that don't know how to connect with us, and you're like, hey, how do I connect? Please check us out on all of our social media handles at both sides of the conversation. We are all over the place, everywhere, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Okay, just put at both sides of the conversation. Check out our website. Check out our newsletter. We are trying to do some amazing things to help impact our community. That's all we want to do. We want to impact our community. We want to have conversations. We want to bring resources. We want to give information. We want to connect you with the resources. We want to bring all those intersections together so that we can impact community. And if that is you, again, you could get involved. Check us out on our website and get all the information you need to connect with both sides of the conversation. Also, our next live show will be this Tuesday at 7 p.m. We have some phenomenal hidden gems that are coming on. So tune in. Y'all know every Tuesday at 7 p.m., we have a segment called Hidden Gems where we continue to highlight our Black and brown businesses, our community leaders, our community organizations that are doing positive things to impact our community. That's where you're going to see those folks at every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And then Thursday, we're going to have another educational Thursday. We're going to have Dr. Lenora Webb. She's going to come on and do an educational Thursday presentation, some more soft information to the gang. That's what we do here. We intentionally connect with the folks that's doing amazing things in the community, and we have them come on and educate our community and give that sauce and gems to our community so that they could be pumped up and ready to deal with what's going on in community. So with that being said, we're going to get ready to get started. Enough of me with the announcements and the news. Y'all probably like, John, shut up. Enough. Get to the conversation. For all of you just tuning in, today is a very, very important conversation. Understanding our LGBTQ community, IA plus community. We're going to have a conversation about that. We have some amazing folks to help come and talk about some of the issues, some of the things that's impacting them in community. And it's an opportunity also for our community folks to understand, have a conversation, dialogue. We don't have to yell, we don't have to scream, we don't have to agree, but we have to at least listen and understand. So we got some phenomenal panelists today. So I'm looking forward to that. There's a couple of stats that's come across that just wanted to highlight. They say an estimated 3.5% of adults in the United States identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual, and our estimated 0.3% of adults are transgender. Among adults who identify as LGBT, bisexual comprise a slight majority, 1.8% compared to 1.7% who identify as lesbian or gay. Women are substantially more likely than men to identify as bisexual. More than 1 in 3 LGBTQ Americans face discrimination of some kind in the past year, in the past months, including more than 3.5 transgender Americans. Discrimination adversely affects the mental and economic well-being of many LGBTQIA community folks, and including to 1 or 2 reports moderate significant negative psychological impact. It's a number of things that goes on community, and this is why these conversations are very, very important. And we're just going to continue to uplift this community. We're going to continue to work in solidarity. We're going to continue to have conversation because I think it's something that we just have to talk about. We can't exclude folks from our community, as we are all one community. And I think today's conversation is going to be good. So I'm going to start calling up our guests. I got a number of panelists that are here. I know a couple will be joining in, and I think it is very, very important to have these conversations. So with that being said, first, I'm going to bring up Trayshawn and let him take a few minutes to introduce himself to community, and DeAnthony and Brandon will be next.
What's up, y'all? My name is Tashawn Rhodes. I go to school at Clark Atlanta University. I'm a sophomore. I'm 19 years old. I study theater arts with a minor in business administration. So I am an actor. I've been acting since I was about 6 years old. And yeah, I've done a conversation in the past. I've done one. So this is my second one. So I'm excited to be back and ready to I'm just ready to talk about the topic. So yeah, glad to be here.
All right. Thank you. Brandon.
Hi, my name is Brandon. I'm 19. I'm from Miami, Florida. I do attend Clark Atlanta University. I am a psychology major with a minor in criminal justice, pursuing to become a criminal psychologist. And yeah.
All right. And DeAnthony, bring up brother DeAnthony. DeAnthony, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much, John. DeAnthony Jones, born and raised here in San Francisco, California, in the Fillmore district. I'm 31, and for me, just an honor to be here. Me and John go way back, and John has just been uplifting community, and I've just been seeing the work incarnate, so me and him connect on that level, and just here to lend some voice to this conversation. I currently work with the San Francisco Human Rights Commission here, doing a lot of work around youth engagement and how we uplift our young folks in community. So thank you, and looking forward to the conversation.
Man, well, we gonna get started. We're not gonna wait too long. We gonna jump into this conversation. When we talk about the community, I would like you all to just talk about it. The first part of just bringing that education and awareness, because I think in our community, Black community especially, we have a hard time adjusting to people who identify other than who they are, right? And I think sometimes there's a confusion. I think there's a misunderstanding. And I also think there's a stereotype that we just don't address. And I know DeAnthony's really good at it by really stepping into who he is and making sure community know, because at the end of the day, it's not about what you identify, it's how you impact other people in community. So I want to throw that out there and just kind of kick it out. And DeAnthony, anybody, y'all can jump in. We're going to popcorn it and just bring that education and awareness to community. And understand, the questions that'll come in, we'll answer them. But I think it's that layer that we need to just cover to understand the community and how it works, because I know each part of the community is totally different. And I think community just need to hear that from you all.
Well, I'm actually going to kick it over to the youth, because I think, and when I say youth, I mean that with all due respect, because they're often the voices who are not uplifted in this conversation. So, I'm interested to hear what they got to say.
So I would say like nowadays is easier to come out, but I would say like in the Black community it's really like for me personally, it wasn't hard for me to come out. I came out in 7th grade. And it's quite fascinating because I even come from a Caribbean household. So it's like you would think that I would have a tough time coming out, but I really didn't. My mom was very open to it. She did her research. She learned more about the community, and like she kind of helped me throughout my coming out process. But I do believe in like any type of Black household that it's very hard to come out. Like I have friends nowadays that tell me like they're a sophomore in college. They didn't even come out to like freshman year of college or like senior year of high school. And I'm just like, dang, I didn't have to live in the closet for that long.
Hey, Shai, you want to jump in
there? Yeah, I agree with what Brandon was saying. Like, it's kind of hard to express yourself or just kind of have freedom within your own sexuality within the Black community, because there's so many limitations that is put on us. They want us to act a certain type of way, especially being a man in our society. Like, you're supposed to be macho. You're supposed to be the strong Black man. And it's like, it's kind of hard to be that way when, you're growing up gay or bisexual or whatever, you express yourself as. And it's like, yeah, so it's definitely hard. So I definitely agree with what he's saying. Like, it's hard for you to come out. And for my experience, I didn't come out to my parents until I was, I want to say 18 years old. Yeah, no, 17 to my mom and 18 to my dad. So yeah, it was definitely a struggle.
So because I hear that term, in the closet, it's like, hidden out. When you did start to come to family members and talking to them about it, like, did you feel like you had a lot of pushback from the younger generation of folks, or did you feel like it was more of the older generation of folks that had pushback?
For me with my family, the only people who I've kind of talked to about this is my mom, my dad, and my brother. So the rest of my family, for real, don't even know for real. I mean, of course they might have their suspicions or whatever, but I haven't confirmed to them about anything. But with my mom and my dad, they were both very supportive, but like, it's still some things that they didn't know, and it's still some things I have to educate them about. It's a lot of topics that still I feel like they're not ready to discuss with me yet. So I definitely feel like it's a little pushback from their generation. But with my brother, growing up, he's 3 years apart from me. So he's 3 years older than me. So he kind of experienced the same generation as me. So he didn't care at all. Like at this point, he don't have like gay friends or bisexual friends or lesbian friends. So he didn't care. Like he was just like, whatever.
So when you bring up the education part, and anybody can answer that, what are you looking at to really educate the people? Because I hear this, we got to continue. And I always tell DeAnthony this, I'm like, educate me, because, sometimes if you don't have an understanding or you really don't know how to engage, depending on who you're talking to, the conversation can go left real quick. You know, I've been in these digital streets, I'm on Clubhouse, and these different conversations come up. And sometimes when people don't understand, sometimes it's like it could get hostile, right? And it's just like, how do we, you know, educate people in a way that they get it and they don't feel like they're being rude or they being, you know, pessimistic or anything of that nature, but they really have concern. Because I told Anthony one time, it was hard for me to ask certain questions because you would hear the backlash that would come, and people like, if I said something wrong, I mean, I'd be like, I don't understand everything, right? I have a lot of friends that represent the community, and I'm learning, right? But it's like, how do we have that real awareness piece in conversation where it's not personal, or, you know, from both sides, you know, from the people who don't understand versus the people who do understand?
Well, you know, it's crazy because first off, I think Brandon answered the question by explaining his story, right, and his mom going out and doing the research. I think that's the most important thing for families, right? To understand these shoes. And I think it goes back to this idea that, you know, while we live in a time where we can come out, can we live out, right? And I think that that's a part of, you know, our job is just to be free, right? Because then people can see the commonalities in us by just us living our lives free and in the open. And so I think that education, in order to really educate our communities, we first got to be free ourselves. You know, we have to be comfortable and confident in who we are, and that freedom itself becomes education. Like, wow, well, I thought, you know, LGBTQ folks did this or that, or I had so many assumptions about them. So I think first of all, it's about being free, and then giving people space to be ignorant. You know, now in a positive way, right? Not like they coming in and insulting you, but give people the space to ask those questions and to have those broken assumptions. I think that the key is if folks are willing to be educated, and I think that that's where the community comes in. We have to really be willing to be educated, and I think that also includes us, because I think, you know, even me as a male, I have to understand that I have more privilege than, you know, let's say our lesbian, you know, counterparts, right? And this idea that I have male privilege that I have to suppress, because a lot of our women and female identified folks don't get that respect for male identified folks in this space. And I think that we have to also be accountable on how we uplift each other in community. Some of us are transphobic, and I think we just have to own that we got to be careful not to harm people in our community as well.
I was going to say, like, I think it all depends on the tone too and how you go about it. Because I feel like if you're asking the question, that's like if, like, you know, if you're Christian and I'm Catholic and you're asking me, but you're asking your question very aggressively, it's like, I don't want to answer it if that's the case. Like, you have to be like, you have to feel, I want to feel like you're inquisitive, like you want to find out more, like you're not judging me, because it's like I've had people in my life before like ask me a question and it seems like they're asking like to joke around or they're asking to like make fun of it. But it's like if you're asking seriously, I'm going to answer seriously. But if you're not, I'm not gonna want to answer it. And I just feel like that is a common thing in the Black community. Like whatever's foreign to them, they don't really want to conform to it, basically.
Anybody else want to jump in? Well, I guess for me, I think that's, you know, very important that you said that, you know, because one, we shouldn't, nobody should take fun of anybody's circumstances, whatever they in. I think there is a real part of that happens a lot. But DeAnthony, you know, we had this conversation about a year and a half ago. From your perspective in the community, it seems like the meter is changing. I think some awareness has happened. I think people are moving into a freer state, but I know there's still a lot of things that are impacting the community. what have you seen? Do you feel like the meter in the Black community is moving any? Like, do you feel like? Do y'all feel like it? Do you see more people embracing the community or embracing you all? Do you feel like it's a difference, or do you feel like we're going back? I know a lot of people felt a certain kind of way when Trump was in office and things of that nature. But do y'all really day to day? Do you feel like the people embrace you, or do you feel like the meter is stepping back?
I was gonna say, I feel like it's more in the younger generation of Black people. It's not in the older generation of Black people. I feel like I come into college, like I realize a lot of people are open to it. A lot of straight guys are open to it. They're open to making, because back at home I didn't have like straight friends who are friends with homosexual people. But I feel like in college you come to college with open-minded people. So I just feel like the younger generation is more open to learning more information and seeing like what's wrong or what they can do to like advocate for their friends. But I just feel like the older generation is they're kind of stuck in their ways. That's basically how it is. They're kind of stuck in their ways, and I understand that. But it's like sometimes you just have to hear them out, hear us out. Like that's all you have to do. You just have to hear us out. Like for example, I have a cousin who's she's cool with gay people, but she always says, "But I don't like those trans people." Da da da. And I'm explaining to her like you can't really say that. You can't be okay with one part of the community, but not the whole community. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like stuff like that. Like some Black people think of it as like, oh yeah, my cousin's gay. That's why I'm cool with gay people. But it's like you're really not, because just because your cousin's gay does not mean you're cool with the whole community. In all seriousness, I'm not gonna lie. That it kind of does make me mad sometimes, because it's like you're not educating yourself. You're just saying that, oh, I have a gay cousin, so that's all right.
So I think that's very powerful
Yeah.
that you said that. And I wanted to ask you all that, because even here in San Francisco, that's a big thing within the community.
Yes.
I've talked to different folks and they like, oh, that's them. We're not like that. So how do a person from the outside of the community really understands how that works? Now, I know in each state it's a little bit different, but I mean, Anthony, you can speak to it, but I'm just telling you, I've been on call with some transgender folks, and they like that's them. Like it's so like for me, I'm confused. Like, is it one community? Is it separate? Because it's like they feel like it's different parts of the community, and it's not one. So I'll be confused as well.
Well, I think it's just like we're not a monolith as a Black community. We're a megalith. So right, we have different experiences being Black folks alone. But we also have different experiences within the LGBTQ community. And that's why I mentioned that it's important for us to also be aware if we're perpetuating stereotypes and, and really how we treat each other. And I think, to answer the question around, are we more accepted? Yes, but, just like the Black community as a whole, the question is, are we tolerated or celebrated? Right. And I think that's the key. Nowadays, I think we're more tolerated, but now you hear about these controversies around books and you can't say gay, and it's like, you want to feel like you have your whole dignity, we're a whole person. And I think that's been, for me, the big thing growing up. And of course, I came out, when I was 19, and this is how times have probably changed. It was, it was because I went to college, right? It was because I was away from my home and I felt more comfortable being who I was. And I think that just helped me when I came back home. But as I always say, though, I said there's a lot of racism within the LGBTQ community as well. And that's why it's important for Black LGBTQ folks to really be together, because we have to deal with racism within the broader gay community and LGBTQ community. So there's those layers as well. It's the layer of, Caitlyn Jenner can come out and have magazine articles wrote and could be the bastion, and oh, Caitlyn then came out, but there's many Black and brown trans women who have been murdered who doesn't get that same space to be themselves. There's the history that trans folks, we talk about the movie Stonewall. Stonewall was a complete whitewashing of what happened in New York with the Stonewall riots, led by two trans women, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. Like, we have to also realize that there's an effort to whitewash Black LGBTQ contributions. And that's the key too. How do we also hold up our history? Talk about Bayard Rustin and the role that he played as a gay Black man in the civil rights movement, was one of the chief strategists. LGBTQ folks, especially Black LGBTQ folks, we organized. Okay, we know how to make plans. All right, so celebrate us, bring us at the table, and I think that's the question: are we just tolerated more, or are we celebrated?
I do want to add on to that. I do feel like it's a lot of people look at gay Black, especially gay Black guys, as an image. They don't really want to get to know us as people. Like, it's always like, oh, yeah, like it's a stigma, just like how it's like a stereotype with Black people. It's a stigma and a stereotype with gay people. Oh, I want a gay best friend because he could do hair, or he could do my nails, or yeah, he's gonna do this or do that. But it's like, okay, not all of us are like that. Not all of us are, not all of us can do nails, not all of us can do hair. I also feel like it's also your level of femininity. I feel like if you're more masculine passing, you're more tolerated and celebrated. But if you're more of a feminine person, then you're more of an image. Like, they just want you for the moment, not for the whole time.
Trisha, you wanted to say something? I know you put a comment here.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to the question that was asked in on the Facebook chat. It was like, do you think your parents already knew prior to you telling them? I would say, yeah. I would say my mom definitely knew, because like people always say, your mother kind of knows your child. So I definitely feel like my mom knew, but she was just kind of waiting to see if I was going to bring it up to her. And it was just kind of a confirmation type thing, because it's like, you can think this about somebody, but until they confirm it, that's when they can really, let you know. So I definitely think she knew. But my dad, I feel like he knew as well, but he was just trying to like shun it out, because he was used to the very like masculine thing. He was a very masculine guy growing up. He had an Army father, so it's like he wasn't really trying to think about it too much until it was actually brought to his attention.
Wow, very powerful stuff. And then D'Anthony, I want to kind of piggyback when you talked about saying gay community, that's not appropriate. I've had that experience, so I want you to elaborate a little bit more on it if you could talk about it, because now people say you only can reference the gay community as LGBTQIA, right? So when it comes to that, like, how do we? Because we're transitioning. I'm 43 years. When I came up, we referred to the gay community as the gay community, right? Then it's this transition that changed. And then it was like, you can't say it like this. If you don't add the I2QA, you're discriminating on the other folks. So I want to just bring that out to community, because I think a lot of community folks have that question. When did saying gay become inappropriate? Or, educate us on that, because somebody told me that I shouldn't say that. And I said, well, when I grew up, that's what we said. We said the gay community. That was the way we identified the community. And I get it, things change. I mean, the people call black folks. Back then they called us Negroes. Some called African American. Is one term wrong than the other? But how did that come apart? If y'all could give me some feedback or to the community, that's a question that come up all the time.
Well, I would start off by saying, each person is different, right? I know for me, it's all about intent, right? And just in the spirit in which you're stating it, because once again, we're megalith too, and sometimes that gets complicated, even on the community level, right? You can say, we in San Francisco, it looked like Hunters Point. We used to just lump everybody in and just say it's Hunters Point. But then, you get to a community level and it's like, nah, we Potrero Hill. Nah, we Sunnydale, right? And I know that's a geographical example, but the same thing here. Like for me, I just have said Lavender community, right? We're a very wide ranging, but I think it's all about the individual, and there's no community preference, because ain't nobody took our votes on what we want to call ourselves, So I think it's all about the intent and what you're trying to say, and quiet as is kept, it's about how the individual identifies, because some people don't identify with, some people are like, hey, I'm openly this and that, or I'm trans, or I'm gender non-conforming. But some of those same folks, including myself, may not feel a part of the broader community. I identify with my Black identity more than I do, being gay, because at the end of the day, there's racism that, lavender Black folks face every day within the gay community and within the LGBTQ community that ain't been checked yet. And I think that folks, just overlook it because it's like, oh, that's an oppressed community. So, I'm not one of those people like, oh, you got to say it this way, because I don't even feel connected to the community as a whole. I feel like we still got some work to do internally before I could feel like, oh. So it's really an individual thing in my perspective and just how I've dealt with it.
I was gonna say that one thing my mom always said growing up, she was like, whenever I went out, she was like, remember, you're a gay male, but at the end of the day, you're still a gay Black male. Like, you have two odds stacked against you. You shouldn't go out there and act a fool or do this and that. You have to walk around with a certain demeanor. You can't just be friendly with everybody. So I feel like not a lot, and that's another thing too, not a lot of people realize that, yeah, we're a part of the LGBT community, but we're still also a part of the Black community. We still face the same racial issues that everybody faces, just with more backlash of being gay also.
Wow. Very powerful stuff being said there. I mean, I'm just glad that we were able to clear that, because I know that's a lot of the questions, the concerns that sometimes community folks has. And you're right, Anthony, it just depends on who you deal with. I've been in meetings, okay, and I'm gonna be real. I love all my folks, in the community. But I've had it at different meetings too, right? This thing that I want to bring up right now is about these pronouns, right? I went into a space one time on Zoom and they got mad at me because I didn't put up pronouns, right? And a lot of people have talked about this. So my biggest question has been, if I acknowledge the community, if I don't follow the things that they do in the community, how am I disrespectful? Because somebody told me I was disrespectful because I didn't put pronouns in a meeting under my name, and they felt like it was disrespect. So I want to ask y'all about that, because I'm still learning. I'm saying, why do I got to put pronouns up? My name is John Henry. I don't need to put up a pronoun. Why is it that I have to be forced to put a pronoun up when I just feel like I don't have to? Like it's like in the LGBT community, they don't want people to force them for stuff. So I said, why do I have to put what my pronouns is? Why do I have to do that? And it wasn't no disrespect, but I just wanted to know, how is that disrespectful?
I feel like it's a big respect thing. And it's not like, and my thing is like, you don't have to have your own pronouns, but at least respect somebody else's pronouns. You don't have to understand what it is, but you have to at least respect other people. Like, for example, my auntie, she's a nurse, and she deals with people from different backgrounds, and she literally has someone whose pronouns was they, them, and she didn't want to say they, them because it's like, oh, it's a touchy subject. It's not a touchy subject. If someone is telling you their pronouns, at least respect it. Just like how you want to be respected. It's just you don't have to do your research on it. But if I'm telling you my pronouns are he, him, just call me by he, him. And I completely understand how we were taught in school and how, it can be confusing sometimes, but it's all about respect. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's just all about respect and respecting people's pronouns and what they identify as.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because for me, it's not. I respect everybody, right? But I didn't know, because I thought it was disrespect if I said, let's just say, if I said Brandon them. For me, I'm like, that's kind of, I just didn't. It didn't sit right with me. I didn't want, But I mean, you're right. Some people like that. I mean, and I get, my biggest thing is, like you said earlier, lead with humility, right? Sometimes I don't know, right? If you come in and you like, hey, I want to be identified as her, then just say, correct me. Like, I just don't like the part where you get like, it's almost like you're getting penalized because you didn't know. That's the part that I've always had a challenge with. It's like, it's out of respect. If I called you Brandon, you say, hey, no, John, call me she or whatever, right? Like, give me that grace, though. Don't just come for me, because I feel like sometimes people they come for you, man. Then it's like, now I'm in this weird space. You know what I mean?
I completely understand. And it's kind of crazy because we're touching subjects that I always talk about with my family. And on my way up to Atlanta, we discussed that. And I feel that you don't know what that person is going through. You don't know what that person's going through. You don't know how their day went. You could be the tipping point of you doing that. You know how many people, like, by day, who, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but by day, who are being questioned for their sexuality, people who are not respecting them, and then it's like, dang, you're not paying attention to pronouns, and that could set someone off. That could really set someone off, and I just feel like being conscious is the best way possible. And I do understand that sometimes it could get a little aggressive, but again, you don't know what that person's going through, what they're going through that day.
Yeah, you're right, Brandon. I mean, I had somebody like go, I'm talking about went off on me. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like they went off on me pretty good. But at the end of it, because I'm a type of person, I feel like, I never want to lead and nobody feeling is disrespectful because I don't believe in that, right? But we was able to get to a better point, and that was what it was. A bad day on top of just I don't go through it every day, so I don't know. And I was with that person, and we had a nice conversation afterwards. Like I deal with this every meeting I go to. I've been on 200. I've been on 200 Zoom calls in the last month, and people don't have that respect. So I get it. You get frustrated, and I must have just been that tipping point. But the thing with grace, I think, is just very important because it has been a slow transition for people in Black community, especially in our religious realm, to come around to have the conversation and even accept the folks in the space. I mean, I grew up in a time where they wouldn't even let people come into church. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think the grace part is just huge, man. I just think that
well, John, and to touch on that and to piggyback, and then I'm interested because being in Atlanta too, it may be different because in San Francisco, there's so many different dynamics, right? Being in San Francisco, it's different in the Bay Area than it is in Atlanta, right? So I'm interested to hear from Tashawn and Brandon. How does that, like, it's crazy because it's like a Black Mecca for, just Black folks in general, but especially for Black LGBTQ folks. And I think for John, going back to what you said, it ended with you having a conversation with her about, pronouns. And I think that grace and mercy, it has to be matched by us in the community to be open to have those conversations and to get on one accord. We'll always have different perspectives with everything in life, but that communication is key. But, I'm curious how that conversation changes in Atlanta, in a place like Atlanta, where, not just LGBTQ folks, but specifically Black LGBTQ folks can feel free in not only who they are, but their race and their racial identity and being Black too.
I feel like in Atlanta, it's like you said, it is a lot of Black LGBTQ people here. So it's like you get to have different conversations with different people about, like, how you identify or how you grew up and stuff. So it's like, I feel like this is a place where I feel like I've bettered myself and I've got to learn more about how I identify because so I'm from North Carolina, and North Carolina is a very southern place. You deal with a lot of racism or you deal with a lot of biases. So I didn't really have people to talk to about like the stuff I was going through growing up. So it was like when I came to Atlanta and was experiencing people like me, it was a relief because it was like I finally, have people who understand me. That's why I feel like representation matters so much in our community because it's like, growing up in certain towns or cities, you don't get to have that a lot of the time. So I definitely feel like conversations are important.
I would say, like, compared to Miami, I feel like as a whole, sexuality and race, I have more opportunities here in Atlanta than I do in Miami. I honestly feel like you still have your fair share of homophobic people or people who don't understand it, which, that's everywhere where you go. But I do feel like there's still a place for us. There's still a place for us to go to when we don't want to deal with everybody. We just want to deal with our community. And I do like that about Atlanta. But I think overall it's just more opportunities. It's more of like not just a sexuality thing, it's more of a race thing too.
Yeah, I think that is very true. You know, dealing with San Francisco to Atlanta to DC, the dynamics is definitely uh totally different. But you know, as we push through this conversation, you know, I want to bring up and maybe y'all can answer it not. I'm sure DeAnthony, you know, there's been a lot of news stories that's been popping out of attacks that's been happening in the community, especially with the transgender community. And there's been certain little conversations about it, not a lot. I know they hit a little bit on the Clubhouse. They talked about it a little bit. But this thing with transgender folks, you know, faking their identity and, you know, dating or having relations with straight men. And I think some of these guys have like killed some of these folks and different things. How do you all feel about, you know, one, I hear, because I hear DeAnthony saying we want to be free and we shouldn't have to, you know, hide, or we should be free. But like you said, there's still a lot of people out there who don't have that awareness or that level of understanding. How do we get those folks to understand? Because I think I've read like 5 articles where like a straight guy killed a transgender person because they lied and said that they were a woman, they were really a man. And then that person found out and they killed them. Do you all think that that's right? Should they have to? I just want to hear from you all perspective, because I'll go ahead, Deontay. I see you leading into this.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like we can't really talk on that so intensely because we're not trans. That's another thing too. Like, we can give our outtake on it, but we can't give you a certified answer because I'm not transgender. I don't feel that I'm transgender. So, but I do feel that, you know, trans people should, and I hate to say it, but they should tell that they are trans, like first date or when they first meet a person, because it's more of a safety thing. It's not, you know, it's more of a safety thing. You don't know how people could react to it. You don't know how people could take it. You could deal with someone who, like a straight male who is very violent and want to hurt you and harm you because you're trans. So that's how I feel, but I really can't give you a certified answer or a well-rounded answer on that because I'm not transgender.
And you know, I definitely, you know, I love that answer, Brandon, because that is true, and those experiences are different. You know, for me being a gay Black male, I mean, I'm only going to be looking for another gay male to have relation or conversation with or go out on dates with. So that's very different. So I don't walk in those shoes. But I also think, you know, the communication, and this is where the stigma is so important in community, because like Brandon kind of alluded to, you know, sometimes it's just from a fear, like a fear of, was that person going to do something to me in the moment? And you know, we can't speak for certainty, but I think that that's why it's important for even straight men to understand the dynamics, right? And for there to be an empowerment to have that conversation, because at the end of the day, I think one of the things that we have to consider, and once again, I don't speak from any authority, but just from a place of common sense, you know, trans women and trans men, they identify with their gender identity as either a woman or a man, depending on where that transition led them. So I don't think that they would even go in saying, well, I'm a trans man, I'm a trans woman. They would go in with their gender identity being the lead in. And I think that that's important to realize too. So I think that there has to be space to give those conversations. But once again, I think trans women and trans men can speak from their own perspective and their own experiences.
Well, I mean, DeAnthony, even as you know, when we talk about this conversation, you know, we talking about bisexual men, we talking about men and women. Like, when that conversation comes up, how important do you think that is, right? Because I think it's not just for the trans community. I think also for people that's bisexual or identify in different ways. How does that conversation happen? Because I see these attacks, I'm watching, I'm on social media, And these people were like, well, they didn't tell me, they tricked me, and all of this stuff, right? So like, how do we have the real conversations that, like you said, it can't be in a safe manner in the sense that we feel free, but people that's outside the community also understand that if they're getting this information, they know how to handle it. Like, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, how do they handle that without responding in a violent manner or an abusive manner?
Well, once again, if the idea is folks being transparent, having that conversation up front, folks got to be comfortable having that conversation up front, just like with anything. And I think that, people act as if they need to have a standard to have these conversations. Hey, if you were a heterosexual male and you dating a heterosexual female, right? I would hope that conversations would take place in any space where you're trying to explore an intimate relationship with anybody. Just transparency, just communication. It's the key. And that's the thing. You can copy and paste whatever subject you want. We have to, in general, be open to being educated and open to be transparent with one another. Like, that's just something that we have to achieve as human beings, right? So I think that the question is, can we just have a transparent conversation about whatever? And that includes who folks identify as, because let's be real, there's also a community of folks gender non-conforming. I don't fit any gender role. I'm they or I'm them. And I think that that's part of the deal as well. Like, how do you just have conversations where folks feel like they can be their genuine self? And then decisions are made after the fact, right? But I think that it's just, how do we create a spirit of just transparency and complete honesty with one another?
I think that's
I
powerful. Go ahead, Brandon. Jazz, welcome to the room.
I was gonna say
Hey y'all.
I was going to say, I feel that conversation so as a gay male, obviously I'm looking for other gay males. They're automatically going to assume that I'm gay. A lot of the times, I feel like it's more of a blind spot or more of a up for question for bisexual people or trans people. I feel that I've talked to a lot of my girlfriends, and I've talked to them, and I said, you know, would you ever go out with a bi guy, or or would you be interested in that? And they always say no, but but then I asked, like, what if they didn't tell you? Because a lot of the times I met bi guys, or I talked to bi guys who have not told me that they're bi. Like, and I just feel like it should be brought up, but also I feel like if you're bisexual and you're with that person for a reason. Unless you're like, you want to, do other experience, try new things. But I feel that if you're bisexual and you're with that person, you shouldn't feel that they're going to go cheat on you or feel insecure in that relationship. Because I know a lot of people, once they find out the partner is bi, they feel insecure. You should feel insecure regardless of whoever you're dating. That's how I feel. You should feel insecure regardless. If they're attracted to male or female, they can still cheat on you whenever they feel like it. So I just feel like that's another thing against bisexual people, that they're more promiscuous and that they'll cheat on their partner and go out there and do this and do that. But you should be scared regardless. That's just how I feel. But I do feel it should be a transparency in communicating that. But personally, I've never had an issue with it, because I'm attracted to males, and if they're attracted to males, that's who I'm going to be talking to or going to be with.
I feel like I can kind of give a little insight on this, because I do identify as a bisexual man. So going into previous relationships, like with girls in the past, I have not told them that I was bisexual, like especially like in high school. Of course, I'm more mature now, so I understand that, it's conversations that need to be had. But I feel like a lot of times people aren't accepting. So it's like, that's what makes you kind of not want to tell them. So like somebody who's trans or somebody who's bi, you don't feel accepted enough to tell them, because like Brandon said, girls a lot of time would be like, oh, I'm not messing with you no more because you're bisexual, or a guy would be like, I'm not messing with you because you're trans, or vice versa. So it's like, yeah, it's just like it's a comfort thing. You're not feeling comfortable enough to tell this person because you know how they're going to react. So I think that's kind of the big thing behind it.
Jazz, you want to jump in there? You can jump in anytime you want to, Jazz. Talk about what you want.
From a female perspective, well, let me say this. I'm not bisexual, but I get what y'all saying. I'm just lesbian, period. But I believe guys think a woman being bisexual is better for them so they can experience maybe, can I say this, a threesome? I don't know.
Yeah, this is, come on, this is both sides of the conversation.
Okay,
Say
okay,
what you gotta say. We ain't the church in here. Come on, let me know.
I think that's even better for them. But from a female perspective, they'll cheat on them, just like Brandon said. And that's not always the case. If they feeling you, they're going to feel you. If they cheat, they just don't like you no more, period.
I think that's very true, especially, in our community, it's a big challenge. And there's a lot of folks who come back home, incarcerated, and they've life changed. They don't know how to adapt and change in the community. And I think it's so much harm being caused in the community, because I was talking to a lady about this. She messed with some guy who came home from prison. He was bisexual. And once she found out that he was talking to other men, it tripped him out. He was like worried about what the community thought. And it was a trip. So, I mean, I think that's why these conversations is so important. Like, I think what Deontay was saying, making people feel comfortable, feel good, so that even if somebody, it's not a shock and awe moment, right? It's like, how do we get out the shock and awe moment and like be able, like Deontay said, be transparent and have a conversation, and folks in the community just like is not a big, a big deal, because I think sometimes the big deal is what keeps the conversation from happening and keep the community from moving forward.
And I think what? Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I was gonna add, like, it also, in a way, in a sense, it also makes the dating pool smaller. So because people are not more open to talking to bi guys or dating bi guys or trying new things, or it's foreign to them. So as a gay male, the dating pool is already smaller. But as a bi person, you don't really want to tell people, because it's like not so many people are open to it. So you just want to keep that there. You want to keep having options. But I mean, I do feel that at a certain point, you do have to say that you are bisexual. For example, like, you're walking with them and you're checking out a guy and they're like, "Are you gay?" And you just have to explain, like, I am bisexual. I just never told you. But it should, up to me, it should never get to that point. But you should tell them at least like a month or a few weeks into you guys conversating.
But Brandon, I gotta ask you this: how do we move it forward, though? Because we have to make this change. We suffer in the Black community in silence on a lot of issues, not just this issue. You look at domestic violence, you look at gun violence, you look at some of the medical health, just mental health. We're in the shell. We can't speak. We can't, like, how do we fix that? I mean, very smart young man. How do we fix it to have the community talking, to have this level of engagement?
I do feel that it should be talked about in the school system. I didn't have much representation growing up in elementary, middle school. I didn't even know, for example, like, I was bullied heavily in elementary going into middle school. And, they would say slurs like faggot. They'll call me gay. I didn't even know what gay was until 5th grade. So it's like, I do feel that bringing awareness and like little things such as like a gay couple in like a animated show, or just bringing representation out so that it's not so foreign to people. That, I think that's what it is. And I'm going to reiterate that it starts with the younger generation. It can't really start with the older generation at this point. At this point, I feel like they're stuck in their ways. I mean, I do know some people who are willing to talk about this, what's going on, and be more up to date with everything. But I also know people who are stuck in their ways and don't want to learn anything, and they're just fine with the tunnel vision that they have. So I just feel like it starts with the younger generation at this point.
And Brandon, you brought up a good point there. I wanted to ask that question. Should this be taught in schools? Because there's a large realm of folks who have their perception about talking about having these conversations in our schools, or educating our people. But Oh, go ahead, D'Anthony. Go ahead, D'Anthony. You know where I'm going, D'Anthony. So go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's crazy that you mention it, because I think that there's a whole lot of things that they're trying to not teach in school, including Black history, right? And I think that this is where community has to really step up too, because quiet as it's kept, well, the school system's not even teaching the basic things to Black and brown students. We see nationally, lower test scores for Black and brown seniors, because their schools are not invested in. And so I think that, when we talk about identity, I think we also need to just talk about this idea of working together and understanding differences across the board. I think there's a lot of space for us to even talk about the Black LGBTQ history in our own communities. Folks like, talking about, the James Baldwins, and talking about the Bayard Rustins, talking about Sylvia P. Johnsons, the Miss Majors, right? Talking about the Bishops, Yvette Flunders, right? And really understanding who our figures is within the community. Because my thing about anything being taught in schools, are you going to teach it from a whitewash point of view? I don't want to hear about Harvey Milk. No disrespect to him, but I want to hear about Black folks in the movement. I want to hear more about the Bayard Rustins. I want to hear more about even Black lesbians and just Yadre Lords of the world. I want to hear about them. And that's not going to happen in our schools either way. So I think we need to have a more community-based history conversation. And I would say that if these topics are broached upon in schools, I think it's up for communities to make sure that there's representation even in that conversation. But I do think, additionally, we need more supports for families. Families who are willing to accept their young and their teenage, LGBTQ youth. How do we help these families understand? And how do we have counseling for families available at home? Because even if you do teach it at school, if they're not welcome at home to have these conversations with their own families, then it's like, okay, well, you're just creating an escape mentality where going to school is more happier than going to home. So I think that we also need more support for families who are like, hey, I'm willing to accept, but I want to understand more.
And D'Anthony, what about this ideology that people have that believes if we start teaching the kids the younger, that's going to help persuade them to go into that way. They don't get a natural decision making, because people say that. So I mean, that's a stigma. And like, people say all kind of stuff. But I mean, what do you say to that? Because D'Anthony, that is said a lot, and we gotta have that conversation.
Well, it all. Let me answer a question with the question. We teach about marriage, but that ain't stopping divorces from being high, ain't it? Right? We talk, if you love somebody, marry them. I mean, divorce rates are high. Most people who get married, a lot of folks who get married get divorced. So these institutions that we teach about doesn't mean that I'm going to make a decision. We learn about math and science in school. I'm not trying to send people to Mars at NASA. We teach about a whole lot. And I think it's this idea, it's also perpetuating this idea that this is a lifestyle choice. A lot of folks who have same gender attractions, it starts early in age, and they start to understand who they are and walk into that freedom as they get older. It's like Black folks being told not to read when they were enslaved, right? Once somebody said, you know what, let me read, then they started to get educated, right? And they started to free themselves. So I think this idea that not talking about it is going to influence folks one way or the other, that's not the case. You see older folks, they couldn't even express who they were, but they still found a way to be who they were. It just wasn't something that you saw. And I think that that's the difference. Just like anything, we have social media and things move fast. So more and more people are making connections with folks who are like-minded and like themselves. So I think the question is, how do we at a community level because like I said, the school system wouldn't just do it any justice. I think at the community level, we need to have a historical conversation about, you know, who we are as Black folks, and bring up the contributions of LGBT folks in that.
Hey, Dominique, go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
I wanted to add that, you know, growing up, I found it odd now that I'm older, and we have this conversation about, you know, not having representation in like TV shows and stuff. It was okay. So was it okay growing up in Disney shows when they had straight couples kissing and engaging and dating? Why is that okay? Why is that presented to the younger youth? Because I know that influenced people around my age to go try to find boyfriend. So I'm just trying to understand, you know, if you know who you are, there shouldn't be any question into, oh, maybe I'm gay or maybe I'm that. I mean, you might be inquisitive and might try to find out, but as you get older, you'll know like what you like and what you don't like. So I don't understand like why is it, you know, and I know that's a tricky thing, but I also feel that, you know, if I had representation when I was younger in TV shows, I still have pride in who I am, but I would have pride in who I am from when I was younger. I would see that my people are out there and I'm not scared to be who I am and be myself around people. So I just feel like representation is just an all-around thing. Maybe so many people wouldn't be scared to come out the closet. Maybe, you know, it'll be a topic more discussed in family households, you know, when they're having movie nights and stuff, you know? So it's just having representation in TV shows I feel that we do need that in today's time.
Very powerful stuff. You know, that's one thing I always respect. You know, DeAnthony, no matter where he go, he always let people know. We was just in San Antonio. He first thing he let people know like who he is. And that's, I think, naming it and just being able to have that level of transparency, it moves the meter a lot. And I always respect DeAnthony, how he moves and you know how he handles himself. But Dominique, I know you joined in. Jazz, I got a question for you, Jazz, too, because there's a lot of folks in community from the lesbian community that said there's two big issues that they deal with. They deal with a lot of violence from men who have problems with lesbians talking to girls, and then also they talk about in the community a lot of the lesbian on lesbian domestic violence issue is big on the rise. And I want you to talk about that because I don't want to let that go either. Because I think a lot of times, you know, when we talk about including our community, and we talk about bringing everybody together, you know, there's certain issues that still impact us. And somebody brought up to me that, John, there's so much domestic violence and on lesbian relationships. And I wanted to ask you about that and just get your perspective. I mean, it's just something that people ask, and I want to make sure that I get those questions out for you guys to address.
A guy cannot handle rejection from a lesbian for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if that's all women or just lesbians. They think they can turn us back straight. They say you haven't met the right one or something like that. I'm like, yo, I'm not even interested in looking at you. I'm interested in your sister or something. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, the domestic violence part, it's kind of tricky because I have a past with that, but not trying to get heavy with that. But it's very emotional. You feel like you're very possessive over that person, and you know how a relationship go. But girls, it's just they're a girl. You feel like you can touch them, but you cannot hit anybody. Period. But they think it's better than a man hitting a woman. It's actually not. But you're fighting. You're basically fighting. It's a girl fight, and it can blow up, and both of y'all can go to jail. It's like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because a lot of people do. I've heard it. I have some friends who lesbian. They're like, "Oh, it's not the same as the man hitting." I'm like, "Hey, violence is violence. We can't do no violence in our community." But you're right; those are some of the things that people go by, and you know, again, it's what we teach the community and what we think is okay, and those are the things that we have to change. When we talk about changing the narrative, we got to change that. But again, we also have to highlight and respect that these things are still happening in the community, because there are people that say, hey, well, that's their community issue, but it's an issue. It's alarming. When you look at the numbers, those cases of domestic violence are increasing across this country. And I think it is a cause for concern to have conversations about it. And I'm glad you brought that up. And Dominic, you are welcome to join in and jump in and in any capacity. And if you want to talk about yourself a little bit, you can as well. Or you got to unmute yourself if you're talking.
There you go. There you go. Just to like top in on that topic, like I feel like a lot of the violence from like lesbians, I guess, come from like miscommunication. You know what I mean? Because like jumping too quick into the relationship and then not really knowing what the other person want or what the other person past has been, because it wasn't, and probably for a lot of females hasn't always just been a background of females, you know what I mean? So jumping into another relationship and being with a female, it's like, okay, what have you been through? You know what I mean? Is there something I should know? Is it like what the type of things that they into? I don't think that's what happens first. I feel like the friendship, you know what I mean, is what they going off of, and the fun and all that other stuff. And once that's over and it's done, you know what I mean? It's like tea spoiling over, you know what I mean? Like the bras come, the fights come, the disagreements, all the other things. It's like, oh, you don't want to be my friend no more type, you know what I mean? And it caused a whole bunch of other riffraff when, I don't know, like I'm not in my relationship for violence, but I'm not going to say we don't have those moments, you know what I mean? Like we have disagreements, but we also figure out a way to talk it out. You know what I mean? We don't just be like, oh, nah, I'm not about to, you know, it's different. It's very different.
Dominique, don't be Deboing over there, okay, Dominique?
I ain't Deboing, boss. This is normal.
This
is normal.
Go ahead. Somebody was trying to jump in.
Yeah, you know, I was just going to say as well to just even the broad scope of this conversation, I think that there's also a misconception that domestic violence, you know, doesn't impact gay males in relationships. I think that, you know, it all boils down to this concept of communication, you know, and this idea that domestic violence is just physical. Sometimes it's mental. A lot of times it's mental. It's more mental in some cases than it is physical. You know, it's this constant berating and this idea that, you know, somebody's supposed to play a certain role in a relationship, or, you know, somebody's supposed to be receptive to a type of behavior. You know, hurt people. So, you know, I think that a lot of times it boils down to a lot of the hurt that we face, the hurt of rejection, the hurt of feeling betrayed, the hurt of feeling shunned, and that creeps up in our intimate lives too. And, you know, it's no different than folks dealing in you know, opposite gender relationships, you know, or any relationship, even a job relationship, any relationship, you know, professional relationships. If folks aren't communicating and things go swept above the rug, you feel like you're not being valued, and it could lead to a blow up. And I think it's even more important for us to realize in community, because, you know, there's a whole lot of things we suppress, a whole lot of hurt that we faced in the past that we're still unpacking. So mental health is so important for our community for those reasons. And a lot of us are still trying to, you know, help and take care of our families, right? And there's pressures there. There's pressures trying to navigate a world that includes homophobia or transphobia or any phobia. For lesbian women, it's dealing with the fact that you're still a woman. And you know, the world is so cruel to women in general. You know, being a lesbian woman, it's like, well, then there's the LGBTQ discrimination. And being a Black woman, there's the discriminations you face daily, just being Black. So there's so many layers that we each have to go through. And I think that that's the issue. How do we recognize that we have our own dignity, and how do we respect each other's dignity?
Yeah, that's very powerful, D'Anthony. And you talk about some of those disparities and struggles. That is real. And that's what I wanted to ask everybody on the panel, you know, when it comes to the workforce, when it comes to, you know, our day-to-day lives, you know, how much of that discrimination is happening? How real is it? Because I also think, you know, we go to work and we deal with these issues, and you're right. We Black, we got that issue. Now you're identifying a certain way. That's another issue. But how real is it? You know, when we in the workplace, some people say, hey, well, there's training, there's information in the workplace. And I still think we're not there in the workplace. And I think that's why I'm always advocating that, you know, we have trainings for safety twice a week we have to do. We have certain things by law that we have to have. When it comes to mental health and we come to, you know, these type of safe spaces to have these conversations, it's not there. How do we implement that stuff? How do we make other folks who don't understand? Because the hiring, the housing, there are still a lot of folks in the community that gets discriminated. And how bad is it?
For me personally, I guess one, because I'm still young, so I still work jobs that are not as serious, I guess you could say. So I haven't necessarily faced any discrimination in the workplace because of it, because of how I identify sexually. So yes, I can't really speak too much on this, but I just know for me, I haven't really, faced any discrimination towards it. There's people asking like, oh, what's your sexuality? But like, of course, that's none of their business. That's personal information. So it's like, if I feel comfortable enough with you to tell you, I can tell you. But other than that, it's not really discrimination for me personally.
I was gonna add that, yeah, I mean, a majority of the time, I don't deal with discrimination in the workplace. A lot of times, what ends up happening is that they assume, and then they come to me and they start talking about it. And, I'll go along with it for the moment. Or, they'll ask me, like, do you have a boyfriend? Are you talking to anyone? And that's how they usually find out. But in terms of like discrimination, I haven't had like a big boy job yet to really understand and go through that yet. But I haven't faced any discrimination in the workplace.
So me, I'm 5 years married to my wife, and with me with the workplace is like it's different because I guess the way I appear or whatever, like first off, they don't ask like what am I going for or whatever because I guess they can see that I'm a stud, you know what I mean? And then when it comes to like what is it that like what is it that I'm doing? I guess my age, just like some of the rest of them, like my age doesn't go with my appearance, I guess. So it also gives me a lot of questions. And then on top of that, we have 2 kids. So my situation turns into a whole story, you know what I mean? Like a background in a sense. But I try to like stay cool with it, you know what I mean? And just be honest with them about the situation. Like my girl has a kid, I have a kid, we're a blended family, you know what I mean? And I try and leave it at that, you know? But as far as me being offended by it, like I feel like I've been this person and been in my situation for so long that it doesn't bother me. It's like another question at this point. You know what I mean?
I feel
I
you.
don't I don't know if this is actual discrimination, but when I was an RA at a PWI, when it was like moving day or something, the white parents, they'll look at you up and down, like sizing you up. Plus, I'm black and I'm lesbian, so they probably worried about their daughter first year at college. They probably think I'm gonna try something, but it's not like that. I'm here for work and I'm here for free housing.
I think for me, my thing is I always tell folks a part of the, I know we have this world of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm like, if you got to formalize that, I don't feel comfortable from day one. Like I want to be able to show my talents. My gayness is not going to do the job. My talents and my skills will. I'm not going to. I think there's this misconception. Folks talk about the gay agenda, and there's an agenda. I say I ain't never seen this agenda. I don't even have a copy of it. I'm more worried about me being black. And as you know, in San Francisco, even right, this where you can be free and who you are. John Henry, as you can attest to, there's black employees even for the city. that feel discriminated against, right? And they have all these trainings, sexual harassment, of being inclusive, and all of that. It's the West Coast, and we're more liberal. And me as a Black person, I feel less valued in space. Ain't got nothing to do with sexuality, but how I look. And so I think that that's the thing too, formalizing. Oftentimes, if sexuality comes up in the workplace, it ain't us who's bringing it up. It's somebody who may have some preconceived notions about it. We just want to come work and do our job. And even me being in the professional space, I've always said I'm gonna show up in my full self. I'm gonna be confident in my skin and who I am. But at the end of the day, when the job got to be done, I'm not like, how can I be gay today at work? I'm just like, how can I get the job I've been asked to do done? We will work. It's just all we want is to have the opportunity to show our talents beyond who we are, just like being Black and getting a job. It's the same thing. We formalize our place in these jobs too much. We just want our whole dignity recognized, our whole potential. It could be that gay or trans person or lesbian individual or bisexual who can make your company go from square one to square 10, right? It can be us who can be the ones to revolutionize how you do business. If you just look at our skill set, and that's my thing. I don't want to be somebody's apology or equity or inclusion strategy. I don't want to be that. I want to be who I am on my resume and who I am in person. And I want that to be recognized, because you also don't want to be in a space to where you're just hired because some company wants to say, oh, we hired LGBTQ folks. See, especially these companies that get in these controversies. They then want to say, oh, we're making efforts to hire more. It's like, no, do they feel welcomed when you hire them? Or is this your apology? We don't need your apology. We need your institutions.
Man, I think that's very powerful, Deontay, because I think ever since the Black Lives Matters and before, it's all this performative stuff, right? We talk about equity, inclusion, diversity. It's all BS in the corporate America. There's no change. I go, where's the equity at? I walk around some of these corporations, I don't see no Black folks. Where's the equity at? So again, it's a lot of these performative companies that's
all of that go out the window when the bills are due.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, just something that, and that's why I say it's the same thing when, like you said, you deal with Black folks. It's all this performative stuff. And I'm saying, hey, I need action. We at a point now, we need action. I don't want to hear about the inclusion, the diversity. I want to see real equity. I want to see people who look like me walk in space. I don't care the background and what they identify. I want Black folks in those spaces, right? And I want to make sure it's a lot of us. It ain't just we're meeting the quota. So I think we have a long way to go when we talk about the overall corporate America. We look at the landscape of corporations. They are not doing their part. And just saying, like you said, we hire some folks to make it look good in paper and for data. When you look at the overall, it's just not even making a mark that it needs to make impact for community folks.
Somebody had this question in the Facebook: how can churches foster environments where a person's sexuality isn't competing with their identity in Christ? Well, which is crazy, because I think that question, if it's okay to answer it, John, I don't know where we at with time.
We got plenty of time. We got 35 more minutes left. Go ahead.
Well, for me, I'm actually, identified as a member of a church who is openly and affirming to LGBTQ folks. Bishop Yvette Flender out in Oakland, California, the City of Refuge United Church of Christ. And she started the church late 80s, early 90s in San Francisco. And she's now started a network of churches. And I know folks are like, well, everyone's just trying to, change the Bible. We got to understand that there's over 44,000 different denominations worldwide of Christianity. So, there's a whole lot of views on how to be in place with Christ. And I think at the end of it, I've learned that the most important relationship is the one you have with whatever your spiritual life is. And I think that we also have to realize that there's a lot of Black folks who are agnostics, who are atheists. And some of that's from church hurt, and some of that's just from their ideas. And I think we also have to understand that we form our own relationship, our own spiritual relationships. I always say, you know, I'm not trying to judge nobody else, because I'm trying to learn who I am spiritually and walk into that. So I think, you know, to answer the question, for me, it's been an idea of really forming my own relationship with my spirituality and not religion, right? Not this idea that you got to, because like I said, there's Jehovah's Witness, you know, with all respect to them, they believe that only 144,000 can get into the gates. And, you know, Christianity has been alive, and Jehovah's Witness has been going since the early 1900s, late 1800s. So I'm like, they probably at capacity now, right? In that belief system. And that's with all due respect, not to joke about it, but this idea that we all have our own spiritual relationships. And for me, you know, I've been able to find a church home that can, you know, lead me with the principles I'm looking for, and I feel comfortable with that. But ultimately, my spiritual relationship is my own.
I was going to add to it and say something simple that I always tell people, and when they question me, I identify as agnostic, but I have LGBT friends who are Christian, Catholic, and I always say, if God is all forgiving, and if God loves you for who you are, why is it such an issue to be gay and still have a religion? That also, your relationship with God is your relationship with God. I always say that there's no such thing as a good Christian or a good Catholic. You know, you don't need to read the Bible every day. Your relationship with God is your relationship with God. And if you don't let anyone get in between, now that's you. I feel that you shouldn't, oh, you can't be Catholic anymore because you're gay. You're sinning. Everybody sins. Everybody sins. So I'm just confused on to why it's such a big thing to have a different sexuality is such a huge issue.
Anybody else want to jump in on that? Well, I think. Oh, go ahead, Dominique. You take your mic.
I mean, I pretty much like agree with them in a sense, you know. Like even me and mine's like we do church here on our own. You know what I mean? Like we do our own verses, we listen to our own gospel, we do our own worshiping. You know what I mean? But it's only to where we're in our own comfort. You know what I mean? And then it is hard to find areas that accept you. You know what I mean? And going to accept you for who you are entirely, not just for you, I guess, coming in with cash or whatever. You know, it's different. It's very different. That's
So,
all, really.
so what does it look like, you know, to be accepted from the community? When do you feel that, or what does that look like? Can somebody paint that picture to community folks when you talk about that? I want to be accepted. I want to be included. I want to. What does that look like?
I mean, I feel like it's more of a embracement, if anything, you know, like there's no talk about my sexuality or even who I am as a person involved. You know what I mean? It's nothing but mutual respect in a sense. You know what I mean? Like I'm a human, treat me as such, and I will do the same. You know, like nobody is God. So for people to walk around and try to, I guess, be him and push that up on other people, like I don't think that that's fair. You know what I mean?
Anybody else want to jump in there? DeAnthony, what does it look like? Come on, DeAnthony, the acceptance. What does it look like, DeAnthony?
Acceptance, you know, for me, I find more and more acceptance is just treating me as a human being. You know, looking at me without every label you think you have, or every label you think you can assume about me. Like, just let me be in space. Let DeAnthony. I always say my preferred pronoun is DeAnthony, because I'm a whole experience. I'm an individual. You know, I'm more than just the labels, and I'm more than any pronoun that I could even offer you. You know, I always say I'm he, him, and brother, right? You know, I'm more than my skin color, right? And I'm proud of my identity, but I'm somebody who probably shared experiences with you. If you just start talking to these individuals who you might, oh, I don't like this sexual, you might learn that you have more in common with them than not, right? I've talked to white conservatives in Seattle, right? And I tell them I'm from San Francisco, but when we got to talking, he was like, man, the government is in everybody's lives. I said, well, nobody knows that more than Black folks, because the government been doing stuff to us since we got here, right? And that's my thing. Like we have these commonalities. Like people are like, well, you know, I just don't want nobody forcing their lifestyle on me. I said, I'm not even forcing the question. I'm just trying to be. I ain't forcing you. I ain't made you sign something that says when I'm in the room, you got to be gay or like or love gay folks. Oftentimes, the people who make identity an issue is folks who want to judge people about their identities, right? You know, it's like if we were to just sit down and share our life stories, you'd be like, damn, you done been through some real stuff. And I think that's the issue with all of our issues. The key thing is that we don't share our stories with one another. And I see here somebody else doesn't want to embrace your choice. That's perfect. Listen, I think we have to have an understanding. First of all, I don't want you to. You know, I'm going to be who I am in space no matter what. And I don't want to force you to accept me, because to force you to accept me anyway is not genuine acceptance. I just want to be able to be who I am in space. Like, I think we have to, as a community, understand that as well. You know, my thing is we don't have to push who we are on people. That's not my job anyway. I just want to be the best D'Anthony I can be. And oftentimes I tell people I'm competing against myself. I'm trying to grow every day. Because if we were all perfect, then there wouldn't be room to grow. And that's my thing. I don't look at somebody else as my enemy or trying to stop me. I'm going to be who I am. You take it, you leave it, or you go on about your business and enjoy your cup of coffee. You know, but for me, it's just about if I'm genuine, then people can be genuine with me. And me being genuine, that also means that, listen, some folks you're not going to get to agree with you. But my dignity and my identity is not up for debate or acceptance or denial anyway. I am who I am. I serve who I serve. The Lord, you know, I got my own purpose on earth I'm trying to fulfill, but nobody is my enemy. You know, nobody. I'm just here trying to leave the best mark I can be without trying to cover anybody else's pathway.
I was going to say, acceptance to me is just being like, just feeling normal in my own skin and in the environment that I'm in. Because even growing up, like, I would say, like, I've grown to have a thicker skin to certain things. Out of stares, like, for example, if I was trans, I would be getting stares, but I don't get stares. But when it comes to certain conversations, like if my girlfriends are talking about their boyfriend this, their boyfriend that, sometimes it's awkward. Or sometimes if, their boyfriend is around, it's awkward for me to be around the boyfriend because they feel a certain way towards me or their boyfriend is a little homophobic. So I just feel like acceptance is just, an all around thing. I don't want to feel out of place in any environment or any relationship that I'm in. That's how I feel. I mean, that's all I ask for, to be honest.
Yeah, just don't make me feel like the black sheep. We're all cousins. We're all brothers and sisters. Like, it's all the same.
Jazz, tell me what that black sheep experience is like. I want to know, because I feel like I'm the black sheep sometimes too. Like, people, they don't like me. I get put in these boxes. I can't go nowhere. I'm like, what's going on? What's that all about? Tell me about that, Jazz.
I feel like they just can't relate to you, and I probably can't relate to you either. We all have our own experiences, and I just want you to embrace me as I embrace you.
I agree with you 100% there. Tayshawn, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I mean, because it's pretty much like everybody's kind of saying my point. So it's like, yes, I'm just kind of agreeing with everybody, listening to everybody, and also trying to get my mom to, because she wants to watch the conversation too. So I'm trying to help her get connected to this. But
Yeah, just tell her go to our YouTube channel. It's live right now. Go to our Both Sides of the Conversation Facebook.
oh,
Yeah, so tell them to go to Both Sides of the Conversation or check out our YouTube. You can watch live there. You can watch on our Both Sides of the Conversation page or group. We are about 15 minutes from ending today's show, so hopefully she get on and catch the last 15 minutes of it. There's questions coming in the chat, but I think my question I really wanted to get out to community today, because we have talked about a number of things of just like bringing in awareness to the community. We identified a number of problems that impact our community. And I think I'm at the point now where I'm like, what is y'all solution or y'all thought process that we have to make the change, right? What do we do? And then what resources can you all give, or information, not even just resource, but information you could give to maybe that young person or maybe that person that is struggling with their identity, and helping them being able to come forward and be included, or have some kind of support that they need. What will you all say that is, or how to get that? And then, identifying the first part of the question, I think is very important that we definitely should say something about. So anybody could tackle those and we can move forward.
I think for me, what I think we could do is, one, like I said earlier, we've all been kind of saying conversations, because conversations is what helps people get to know each other. That's how we, learn from each other, and people have to be willing to want to learn. I feel like a lot of times we have conversations with people or even debates, and it's like you're not actually listening to a person. I feel like people listen to respond, not listen to actually understand what the person is saying. So I feel like a lot of times we really need to have just conversations. Also, I feel like representation matters. So, like Brandon touched on earlier, I feel like representation needs to be put on TV. Representation needs to be, had in classrooms, because that's, again, how we learn from each other. And just teaching your kids, I feel like that's also something that needs to be had. Is just teaching your kids about what sexuality is, and just because if it doesn't start in the household, that's how a lot of people are racist, because it starts in the household, or homophobic. So it's like, it's conversations need to be had to where you can teach your kids and educate your kids to be accepting of everybody.
I think the common denominator of it all is just to be open-minded. That's really what it is. Just be open-minded. Don't be so stuck in your ways. You might make a friend that you really connect with, who you really like mess with for real. And them being gay is an obstacle, really? Like, I do feel that just being open-minded is just really the whole concept of it, and wanting to educate people and wanting to educate the youth and older generation about it all.
Most definitely. I think it also comes with maturity too. A lot of younger folks, or mid-aged folks, they're not so comfortable in their skin. So, you see that part of the discrimination that happens too. Sometimes straight men are like, hey, I don't want you around me because you're gay. And they, it's just, those conversations have to happen, and I think it does come with communication. Anybody else want to take a shot at that, D'Anthony, or anybody?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm off mute.
Yeah, you kind of breaking up, but I
Okay.
can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me a lot better now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that education piece is very important. The National Black Justice Coalition, as well as is a good organizing tool, and they're based in DC, but they're covering the National Black Justice Coalition, excuse me, .org. That's a resource, but I also think we have to have an understanding that the Black community is a megalith, right? In multiple layers, right? We're different based off of where we come from. Vernacular is different. Soda, we call it soda out here. It could be called soda pop somewhere else. And in the East Coast, they call bodegas. In the West Coast, they call corner stores. I'm at the stove. STO. So we have to understand that there's multiple layers of understanding each other. And I don't want to also just make this about LGBTQ acceptance. How do Black people accept Blackness radically? No matter what form, is our Black seniors accepting them, as they age, and our Black youth accepting them, making room for them at the table. Our Black LGBTQ folks, our Black trans women, our Black trans men. We need to just create an environment of radical acceptance for us all. Our Black men who are re-entering society from the justice system, our Black women, our Black mothers, single mothers, our Black single fathers. Like, we have to, as a community, get to a point to where we're radically accepting each other in this oppressive environment, just us being Black. And, understanding that just because we LGBTQ doesn't mean we can just walk up to some white LGBTQ folks and say, hey, here we are, accept us. I live in San Francisco. We got the Castro, the most historic community for gay folks nationwide, and Harvey Milk and all of that. You go to the Castro today, ain't no Black-owned bars. And it's not even white lesbians, white Black lesbians. There's hardly any lesbian bars in San Francisco that are owned by lesbians. So, I think it's important to note that, because here you think it's all dandy and good because we're in liberal San Francisco. It's worse. So I think there also has to be an understanding that we as Black LGBTQ folks ain't welcomed in these spaces. And so that's why our Blackness needs to be accepted. So all I say and leave with is just let's accept people's Blackness. Let's accept people's basic human dignity.
Man, that's powerful, powerful. Anybody else?
If the LGBT can't get in the curriculum, it can be an extracurricular activity after school for school-age children as well. In college, you can join clubs just to be informative of their community, of our community.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. I think that's something that should be done. I know there's a number of PowerPoint presentations and things that folks have done, and we'll try to get some of that stuff here to support community as well, because it's important. I think knowledge is power. I think you break down the ignorant thought process when you have a little bit of awareness. I mean, it takes a lot. And again, I think Brandon hit the nail right on the head. Through communication, the healing process begins. I think there's a lot of healing in our Black community that still needs to happen. There's so much trauma. There's so much stigma when we talk about the LGBTQ community that we just got to continue to break down. It's been fried upon. It's just a number of things that has taken place to where we are now, and young people are growing, they're thriving. There's more opportunities on social media. There's more exposure. But again, like the folks said earlier, there's not enough exposure when it comes to the books, the literature, the movies, the music. So again, making those spaces, there's a lot of change that has to happen, a lot of work that is continuing to hike. There's a fight that continues to happen. And I like how D'Anthony put it, at the end of the day, we're Black folks. We have to remember that we are still Black. We are still not getting accepted on all levels. And it does us no good to have division between our community, our LGBT community, and just other folks. We got to come together and figure out, how do we work together? How do we move together? Because at the end of the day, when we have to stand up against the true oppressors of this world, it's going to take us all. It's not going to be no individual. So it's a lot of work that needs to happen. But with that being said, we got about 12 minutes left. I want to give everybody an opportunity before we leave today, just to leave some parting words or words of encouragement or any kind of resources or websites or information that you want to give to the community. Maybe there's a family watching now. Maybe there's a father. Maybe there's a mother that is struggling with having a conversation with their kid. Or maybe there's a youth out there that is struggling to come out and talk about their sexuality and what they identify as. And maybe you could give them some resources, some websites, some support, whatever that you have. Or if you just want to give some loving words, some parting words to community to uplift them and let them know that whatever you're feeling inside of your heart, that it is real, it is true, it is your feelings, and you want the community to hear it as we get ready to exit out today. So I'll start from left to right. I'll start with Brandon, and we'll just move around the room, and then we'll close out. I'll give a few parting words and end today's show. Thank you all for being here. This has been a very transformative conversation. It's been very honest, and that's one thing that we try to do here is keep it authentic, keep it real. When we talk about changing the narrative, it comes from the voices of these folks. These are the people who day-to-day experience what they experience, and it's an opportunity to bring our communities together to have this conversation, because sometimes if we don't have these conversations here or other platforms, not just at both sides of the conversation, but any platform, sometimes in the Black communities, conversations aren't happening at all. And that's what we want to do, is bring these touching topics, these stigma conversations, sometimes the taboo conversation to our community and have it there where we have to face it and have a conversation and deal with it. And I think you all did a phenomenal job today of really expressing your truth, your understanding, and bringing that to the community. I think it's very powerful and touching today. So with that being said, Brandon, go ahead and leave the community with something, and give whatever love and any shout outs you want to give. Like, this is the time to do it. If you want to shout out anybody, this is the time to do it, brother.
I just want to end off a good note and say, be be yourself unapologetically. Like, live for yourself, don't live for anybody else. I do want to thank everyone for coming out, watching the live. It was fun talking on live, giving my experience, and yeah.
No problem. Thank you very much. And, we appreciate your insight. We appreciate your truth, Brandon, and being a young person to speak up like this. I think it's very powerful. I think not only just this conversation, but all conversations in our Black community, as we could get more people to be vulnerable, to tell their story, tell their truth. I think we move our community forward. I think it is a great service to our community, because there's so many people who are suffering in silence. And I think all of you bring that courage for people to really come out and speak their truth and really let things be heard from the perspective of you all have. So powerful stuff to you, young king. Keep doing the things that you're doing. Keep inspiring, keep thriving, and keep moving our community forwards, and continue to keep these conversations happening, here, there, and everywhere. So very powerful stuff. Dominique, you want to give any parting words, any shout outs or anything? And this is the time to do it.
I just want to say, like, just basically always be yourself. Don't be shy or too scared to like ask questions, and like find, you know what I mean? Like, well, not even find, but stick with the support that you do have. You know what I mean? Like, stay close to your support that you do have, basically. You know what I mean? But that's pretty much it. Stay strong, really, because it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's a challenge having to be one of us. It is an everyday challenge. So keeping your head up is the main thing. And yeah, I mean, stay safe, and thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you very much for showing up last minute and letting your voice be heard. And I think that's very powerful. Just folks staying true to who they are, and being able to step in their greatness. And it is a challenge. I mean, the dynamics is so different. And there's so many things that you all are getting hit from so many different angles, so many different intersections, and community folk. This is why this conversation is so important, so that you could be aware, you could get some understanding, and you not be the person that add to that stress, to that trauma, to that pain, or to the things that they go through every day. And we're going to continue these conversations, but community, do your part to make that lived experience day to day for our community folks something that is a peaceful and loving one. But with that being said, Jazz, go ahead and give your final words or thoughts or shout outs to community before we end today.
I want to say that I do identify as Black first, okay, but I have no problem embracing my sexuality and others. So a gay agenda, that's nothing to me. Like, that's fake to me. The real agenda is the straight agenda that have been pushed on us since we were kids. So, and I just want y'all to know that we can overcome any obstacle that come our way.
That's right. All power to the people. Powerful stuff, Jazz. Thank you for being here, supporting us as well. Again, that's what we do here at both sides of the conversation. We uplift everybody. We want to highlight everybody and uplift them, empower them, and make sure that they're doing the things to impact community. And we thank you, Jazz, for just your resilience and your approach and being here to support community. Powerful stuff. Thank you. And I'm just looking forward to more and more great things for our organization and for the community, how we can help do our part to make sure that we're intentional and make sure that we involve of this change that we talk about the narrative in our community. So thank you very much. D'Anthony, my brother D'Anthony, come on, brother, come on. You got to say something to the people before we leave today.
Well, the only agenda I got is the free agenda. And I just want folks to be free in who they are, their whole self, and their authentic self. They say organic food is good for you. So maybe organic living will be great for us too, and just being who we are without the preservatives, without the, got the hide. And, for me, that's just it. How do we be radically free? Right. And that means that oftentimes we got to put our own ideas about each other, even when we hurt each other. How can we come to a space of reconciliation? And that don't mean we got to have the same relationship. That just means we have an understanding. And I think that that's what we need, more understanding in our community across the board. Name a topic, we need more understanding in it. And once we open ourselves up a little bit more to the experiences of others, we'll find out how we're more alike than we are apart.
Man, very powerful stuff. I thought it was a song. Was it SWV? Somebody used to have a song. It's called Understanding. I don't know what it is. I think it was Escape. Understanding community. We need a lot of that right now. We need some healing. We need some love in our community. And, we just thank you, D'Anthony, for being a trailblazer and, stepping into your radicalness and bringing that to the people because you're very powerful, very well spoken. And we always support the work you do, your involvement, making sure that we continue to hold community accountable, continue to bring community together, and just appreciate you. And just happy to see you back in space doing what you do, and just bring that spirit and that love to our community. So thank you, D'Anthony, as well. Tayshawn, it's your time, showtime.
I just want to say, I just want to say that it's very important that we just learn to love each other. I feel like we're all so different. So it's just very important for us to love each other. A lot of parents I know are listening, and I want you guys to know that y'all could be having a child who is a part of the LGBT community, and just learn to love them and accept them and embrace them for who they are, because it's very hard to be a part of this community in the Black community. We're targeted a lot. So it's just learn to love your child for who they are. And I also do want to say that homophobia was really brung up in a part of slavery era. They didn't want us to reproduce. Well, they wanted us to reproduce, so they would stop a lot of gayness or lesbianness. So it's keep that in mind. Don't let what white people try to take from us, influence your decisions. You have a mind of your own. We are Black in America. Our thing is to stick together, and that's what we need to learn to do. And it's to not let slavery continue to affect us in America. And just love one another.
Powerful stuff. You have a powerful future. I already told you. You're going to be telling some great stories, and you're going to have some impact on this world because, again, your truth. You're always stepping into your truth. And I think it's just so powerful for all of you here to be vulnerable and to be able to have these continued conversations. It's not easy. The change is not going to happen overnight. But I think each day as we poke, as they say, at the problem, we're starting to burst that bubble that's in our community. It's a difficult, task. I mean, anytime anything happens in the community, there's a negative stigma that's put on your community. We talk about MPX, monkeypox. The first thing they do is related to the LGBTQ community. It's a lot of things that you all have to deal with, and we find it more and more, and then to have to deal with the blackness is a whole nother issue. So again, it's a lot. The plates could be high. We're trying to uplift positivity, but again, with all of that, we're going to continue to move forward as a community. As we close out today, I just want to say it is very powerful, community, to have conversations that involve the youth, that involve the elders of the community. There's a bridge that needs to be connected between the elders of our community and the young folks of our community. There's a lot of change happening. The way some of our elders were brought up wasn't always the right way. Some of the ideals that they may have put in place wasn't always the way it should have been. But at the time when we were young, they was right. No matter what, they was right. Now there's a time where the young folks are becoming those young elders of the community. They are making their voice heard. They are making their statements in a way that community here receives. We have to continue to work together. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of transformation that is happening. We have to do it in love. We have to do it in peace. These conversations are continue to be needed in all communities. When you're dealing with families, sit down at the table and have dinner and talk about the true issues that sometimes we don't want to touch. Maybe there's a kid in your family that is struggling and want to come out. You be the listening ear and the door that's open to have that conversation. You embrace that person with love so that others will lead by your example and lead in love. It is a lot of work. This is not easy. This is difficult conversation. I heard Jazz say it. Sometimes you could be the black sheep of your family for stepping in your truthness. We cannot do that, community. We want everybody to feel included, especially within our families. This is the time that we need to come together. When there is differences, when there is misunderstanding, when you don't have the same ideal, as DeAnthony said, how do we still come together and have an understanding? Understanding was what this conversation was all about. It's not about you have to agree. It's not about you have to do it this way. It's just understanding some other perspectives, understanding some other mindsets that is going on in our community. This is it. These are the conversations. Be that impactful person that works to move our community forward. These are our community members. I've heard DeAnthony say it many, many times, and today we are all one community. We are Black first. On top of all the other things that we deal with, how do we not be the oppressors of our community? It's been going on for too long, community. We cannot continue to oppress each other and hold each other down. We are at a time of freeness, a time of liberation. Let's liberate each other. Let's empower each other. Let's make change in our community that we can make our history and say, hey, this generation couldn't do it. But these young folks are pushing forward to say, this generation, the model that we are making, is the greatness of the community that we live and we serve. We have to lead by love, y'all. Continue to lead by love. These conversations will continue to happen here at both sides of the conversation as we continue to change the narrative. And we're going to keep doing it from our voices. I don't want to hear from other people. I want to hear from you all. And today, phenomenal panelists, having a great conversation, a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom. And we just thank you all. And we pray for you all. Because we know in these streets, it can be difficult. There can be challenges. The resource is get help. Reach out to somebody you feel comfortable with. Have those conversations because we know there is tragedy that takes place in our community. There is hate that takes place in our community. We have to name it. We cannot act like it doesn't happen. There is hate that continues to impact our community, that put trauma on the folks that's in our community. And it's our job as community leaders, community organizers, to make sure that the people that walk in our community feel safe, protected, loved, and their voices are heard. And that's what we're going to do here. Continue to uplift that and put all power to our people because that's what it's about. The people is where the movement happened. You do your part. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in today for this amazing conversation. And we're going to have more amazing conversation to touch these taboo and stigma conversations that continue to disrupt and impact our Black and brown community. Every Sunday, we're going to continue this conversation and push it forward. I think this was powerful. Thank you all for coming and speaking your truth. This Tuesday will be our next live segment. It's our Hidden Gem segment. My favorite segment of the week, DeAnthony. All we talk about is positive Black folks that are doing amazing things to impact our community and Black businesses that we don't hear about because there's a stigma out there that say there's no Black businesses. but there are. And they come on our platform. They let you know where they at, what's their hours, and you need to go out there and support them, just like we're going to support them, because we want to bring economic power to our community, and it starts with you. Spend black, buy black, and we want to own. That's what we're going to keep doing, and we're going to keep promoting that here at Both Sides of the Conversation. And then next Thursday, we're going to have a phenomenal educational Thursday. Black community in San Francisco, get ready for the Mega Black Retreat. It's going to be phenomenal, okay? We got some powerful folks coming in. We're going to be doing some real mental health work and making sure that our community get the services and get the resources and information that is needed. All of the Halloween events are starting to kick off. Get ready. There's going to be candy everywhere. Remember, be safe. There's going to be a lot of people walking around with masks, a lot of events going on. Be safe out there, and make sure that you continue to empower your community, as we will here. Thank you all for watching today. We'll see you all soon. Be safe out there. Until our next live show, Both Sides of the Conversation. All power to the people. Y'all already know. See y'all soon. Have a blessed evening.